Right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Kathryn Kaiser. I am the primary division director at the school at Columbia University, so that's kindergarten, first and second grade. And we're happy to share our experience over the last couple of weeks with you tonight.
Hi, I'm Gina Marcel. I'm the primary technology integrator at the school at Columbia University, and I'm so happy to be here.
All right, so we'll get started, Barbara.
Yes, please.
All right.
4:03.
All right, our goal for the next hour is to share a little bit about how we got started, the process we went through with the teachers, some specific examples of what the teachers have given out over the last 2 days. We've been remote learning since Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then we close Friday for spring break, but we're not sure what's gonna await us after spring break. So we're going to share that process and also some specific tools that we've been using and how to access some of those tools. That's our goal for the hour. We hope we can stay within it. I'll start by saying a couple of weeks ago, actually during the NAIS conference, the national conference that was in Philadelphia, Amani, our head of school, reached out to the division directors and said, it's time to start thinking more strategically, because it's not if, it's when. And so we started having conversations in our grade level meetings with teachers about if we were to go online, what would that look like? And in particular for kindergarten, first and second grade. So I think it started with a lot of brainstorming and a lot of discussion with the teachers. And while at first it sounded really overwhelming and not at all possible, as the teachers talked to each other, they started sharing some really thoughtful and meaningful things that would guide our practice ultimately. I'm going to share one thing on the screen. So this is my desktop, and this is the first thing that we put together, was sort of summarizing the ideas of the teachers, what they were saying, what was going to be important. And so we started making sort of principles or values that were important to us as a school. And we wanted children to have the remote learning focus on not just their academic, but also their cognitive across the board, their physical development, their social emotional development, and that we wanted our on and off screen activities to actually be facilitated by home adults. We didn't want children logging into a system and being on that system all day long. We wanted them to be working with family members at home. We called it family engagement. Provided by teachers to home. That was the structure that we decided. And we decided that it would be asynchronous, that it would not be delivered in real time, because we didn't want children logging in and being online with teachers. We wanted them interacting with real adults at home. The one thing that's different are our support services. We did want those to be in real time, but they're short and they're one-on-one and they're guided by our support teachers. So we established some guidelines for families around how to support your child at home, how to define space, how to monitor communication, checking in with teachers, and then encouraging physical activity and being mindful of their stress, monitor how much time they're online, and keeping them social. Our psychologists put together some ideas around emotional regulation if children felt sad, if they felt mad, or if they felt worried, in order to give them some language for that. And then we also thought it would be important to give families suggested schedules. So that was some of the early parts. How do I unshare my screen, Barbara?
There should be something at the top of your screen that says unshare.
Stop share.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So that was the first step, was really hearing from the teachers what they felt was valuable and important in terms of communicating with families, and then getting that together into a guidelines document. So if we actually had to do the work, we had something common that we were in agreement about.
Where I was able to help is that because Kathryn was able to communicate a very clear understanding of how we were to move forward, I was able to gather all the teacher information in terms of resources that everyone was using, because I don't know everything that everyone is using, simply by creating a Google form. And with that information, I could send out software, develop trainings, and have a better understanding of what our goals were. It was pretty easy. Once we understood what kinds of apps and what kinds of websites our teachers were already using to enhance their learning, and then the training could begin. And what we wanted to make sure is that we didn't introduce new technologies or any databases or new software that teachers weren't familiar with. We didn't want to introduce new ideas to students at home where they would have to learn. We wanted things that were familiar to both families as well as teachers. So what we ended up doing is very simple. Let's just do that. I hope is we just started, sorry, that is not doing what I'm expecting it to do, is that we created a simple list of items for the teachers to take home. And obviously that would be more specific to your teachers and your school environment. For us, that meant we asked teachers to take home laptops, iPads, chargers, dongles, document cameras, headphones, anything that we thought that they might need. And then we did very quick software training on simple tools like QuickTime Player, where you could record yourself speaking to the camera, or IPvo Visualizer for recording as well. That works with a document camera or straight on. We introduced Zoom for video conferencing. Columbia University, Amani made the decision that we'd get professional accounts, but the free accounts work just as well. So teachers use Zoom with the expectation that they do video conferencing with each other, and support services would do video conferencing with our most vulnerable community of learners. We also use Zoom to record ourselves as well as record our screen. So to do screen recordings, Zoom is a wonderful tool for toggling back and forth. In addition, we had to decide where all these materials were going to live. So you can go the simple route and you can create a Google Drive and share a folder or contents from a Google Drive. You can create a simple Google site that would have links. You can just send emails with links to those items. And if your school does have a content management or a course management system, some of the common ones are Moodle, Canvas, and for our community, we use Blackbaud Hosting Web Portal. In addition, I didn't want anyone worrying alone, so I made sure that I was available to support people over email, text, over a phone conversation, or in person over the course of, I would say, like the week and a half that we were preparing for this. When teachers went live, mostly our CST, our child support team, went live. I was available by phone or Zoom to help them negotiate any issues that they had working their Zoom system or giving parents support.
So I think we want to share some of the joy in this because it was definitely stressful, but the teachers were really working together. I'm really, really excited to share some of the positive parts on the outside, because if you're at the beginning of it, it feels overwhelming. One of the teachers called it Orwellian. But when the community came together and they pulled together, it's so beautiful what they've done. And the parents have been coming in and writing and emailing their appreciation, their thanks, and their incredible pride in the teachers that their children work with. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things that the teachers put together so that you can get a sense of how it can be developmentally appropriate and lovely for children. So an example, a very simple example, is an email that goes home on the first day, letting them know what their schedule is going to be for the day. But even more joyful is how the teachers greeted them in a little QuickTime video to tell them. I think I'll start with this one just because look at those faces.
Hi, Casey. So you may have noticed that something is very different. You are going to be doing your Casey learning at home today, Thursday, and Friday. It's called distance learning. We have prepared some special games for you to play with your adult. Some of these games and worksheets are so familiar to you all, but if you have a forget, don't you worry. We have typed the directions for your grown-ups so you could play at home. Every day there's going to be a schedule, and you'll see there's reading workshop, writing workshop, word study, and math. And don't forget to do some Go Noodles between your learning activities. At the end of this video, you can ask your grown-up to check their email. There's a special surprise in there. See you soon.
Maybe. But super fun. The kids were really, really excited. The families loved it. And then the emails that they got had little links to all the different parts that the teachers had put together in that Google Drive that Gina talked about. So this is just using your Google, and then they created a folder. This is the kindergarten distance learning plan. The teachers worked together to generate all the different movies of read alouds, or going through anchor charts in the classroom, how you use an anchor chart, how-to book writing instructions, a 3D shape hunt, and then they created all of the files, made them accessible to the person with the link that opens it, and then the families could actually have the schedule for the day and go through and do the activities that were there. So this was a first grade one. So I think that the joy that the children felt when they saw their teachers on the screen, and the parents' relief at receiving some specific things that they could do with their children that was based on what the children have already been doing, I think was incredibly affirming to the parents and made them think, all right, I can do this. But it is true that some parents wanted to plug their children into a device and have the teacher do everything for 8 hours. That's not appropriate for kindergarten, first or second grade. It might be different for a 6th, 7th, or an 8th grader. So we really made it clear that this is family engagement. We're giving you tools so that you can guide your child. And the tools are easily linked and accessible. And we'll also show you in a little bit, we do have a website, so they were linked onto the website as well. So how do teachers make those QuickTime views, QuickTime movies, or learn how to use Zoom, or create those demonstrations? And we did that through workshops that Gina led.
They were very simple workshops. They lasted less than an hour. And as teachers responded and expressed different needs, I just added more to my workshops, or did one-to-one personal learning. QuickTime is a very simple application. You just launch it. It comes free with most computers. You just launch it, and then you just click movie recording and then press record, and then you save it. And it's really that simple, like this application we're using right now. If you use Zoom and you just click start a meeting, you can record that meeting, and that recording becomes a movie file. You don't have to invite anyone to a meeting. You can just have a meeting that you record, and you can toggle back and forth between your screen. So you can also show documents that you might have, or pictures or images that you might have on the screen. So we found teachers were able to create these quick videos that without any issues or concerns, and they felt really free. What the result was, of course, is this was a whole school effort, and what the result was, we basically created like an awesome kid site for our community. And I think this is going to be a resource that parents are going to use throughout spring break, because it just became so fun and so settling for students to be able to see their teachers on the screen, as opposed to going to like a Khan Academy type website and learning content. This reinforces the content that we teach at school in a very comfortable and kind and fun way. And our teachers thrived. They were able to do anything and everything we asked. The highest level of support I had to give was definitely for our child study team, as they were embarking on having these Zoom sessions, 15-minute Zoom sessions with parents at home. We could only control but so much at home, but we did our best to make sure that everyone was fully equipped with the equipment that they needed. The technology department here, we don't send laptops home. We don't send iPads home. So we had to coordinate with parents so that they could pick up equipment in case they didn't have equipment. We had to be aware of what everyone's internet resources were in a very explicit way. In other words, the questions had to tease out the answers we were trying to get at. Like, for example, if you want to know if someone has an internet connection at home, you have to be specific and ask exactly what kind of internet connection, whether it's like check all these boxes that apply or fill in, because someone with just a cell phone will answer that question yes, but a cell phone may not be enough to do the task that you are asking your community to perform. So it's very important to be very explicit and tease out as much information as possible. So
And
with
I would add,
I'm sorry. go ahead.
while the teachers were discussing what might it look like to do remote learning with 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, the communications office and the administration were gathering information from families about what access and what resources they had at home. So those two things were happening at the same time, so that when we did have to go to remote learning, which was literally with, I'm going to say, less than 12 hours notice, because it was the Sunday night before the Monday morning, that we were not going to be able to open school. All of that information was already in place, and all of the teachers had already talked about what might it look like. And then Monday it was, now we're going to make it look like that.
Yeah.
So they really came together, they collaborated, they distributed the work across classrooms. We were able to be in school for 2 days physically in order to put that together without students. But the teachers, I think, are very easily able to generate that from home now. I had one example I wanted to show you where the one teacher, their co-teachers, what that teacher was not able to be physically present in the building, but participated in all the trainings by Zoom, collaborated with her teaching team by Zoom, and then produced an equal amount of work to her colleagues, including working with a colleague while remotely working. So I just wanted to show one of those, because I don't know that everyone will be in their schools when they move to remote learning. So it's still possible to do the exact same thing with adults collaborating online away from families, putting together resources, and then sending out the messages. So I'm just going to show one video that the teachers did separately, but together. Can everybody see these guys? So this is Amanda and Spiro, and they're doing the first grade number string.
Hi, first grade. This is Mr. Zakis from 1B.
And I'm Miss Bobbitt from 1B.
Are you ready to do a number string?
Today we want to practice fact families. What do you know about fact families?
I know that in a fact family, there are 3 numbers that live in the same house. This means that these numbers have a relationship and work together. For example, I know that 2 plus 3 equals 5.
Thanks, Mr. Zakis. Are there other equations that you know because you know about this fact family?
Yeah, so if 2 plus 3 equals 5, that must mean that 5 minus 2 equals 3.
You're right. Thanks for that. Can you think of another equation for this fact family?
So you can see, I think that the teachers did a really nice job of collaborating it, making it like it was in school, and collectively putting together a lesson, just recording themselves doing that lesson together and toggling between, like we are, screen view versus the video view. And that was the math lesson for a group of children. The teachers differentiated the instruction across the class because all of the teachers in the grade worked together to make a set of lessons for this group of readers, a set of lessons for this group of writers, and a set of lessons for this group of mathematicians. So the children actually see all of the teachers in first grade. The personalized launch, which the teachers agreed, there's so many online resources we can send families to and say, why don't you go to Brain Pop for this, and why don't you go to Go Noodle for that, and why don't you go to that for that. But what we thought our children would really be missing was seeing their teachers, seeing the people that they know and that they love and that they have relationships with. So we decided a 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute intro or mini lesson followed by 15 to 20 minutes of an activity that's facilitated by an adult was a better balance for our students than just giving them a list of resources and a schedule for them. So the teachers recorded all of these little lesson launches or greetings or closings as a way of keeping children connected to the teachers that they know at school. Yeah, I do have science. I see a question. We haven't gotten to the multi-grade. We call them multi-grade teachers here. We don't call them specials because everybody's special. We have classroom teachers who teach 4 subjects. So classroom teachers are responsible for literacy, math, social emotional learning, and social studies. The classroom teachers we asked to provide personalized learning, like small group instruction through this process. But the multi-grade teachers, which is a teacher who teaches one content area like science to multiple grade levels, those teachers needed to provide family engagement that is for the whole grade. So it's not, they have too many students. They have hundreds and hundreds of students. So if you teach science once a week, then you're expected to put a science engagement out at the rate of once a week. So the teachers did not have prep time before starting this plan. That was the question. We did this together. We used our team meetings to plan. So let me show you some of the multi-grade teachers.
Right.
Hold on. So I showed you what an email would look like to the families, but the families are also told in the email to log into our website. But the science teacher could have also, so here what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get logged out. Good, I'm not logged out. So this is our website where families can log in, and this is the KC family page. So you can see some of the things that are on there for KC, their little schedule, same as their email. We can put downloads on there, we can put photographs on there, and we can put links on to the different websites and the videos the teachers made. But there's a whole topic for the other subjects the children have. So we have a visual art page, we have a wellness page, music, science, Spanish, dance, social emotional learning, and the library. So those teachers all put, most of them were one lesson because they see the children one time a week. If this continues after break, then they'll continue to upload pieces here. So here's a music teacher, which I think is really nice. And the music teacher, I think I already downloaded it. The music teacher loaded a music lesson that's an audio file. And it's wonderful. I think teachers are going to take this file home and use it at home with their own children. So I'll let you listen to a little bit of it, but the child has to sit and just listen. It's a long lesson, and then they interact with what's happening in the music.
Kindergarten families. This is Miss Xu. Welcome to our KC. Are you ready?
Yes.
Join me, sing and clap. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes,
I'll
indeed.
click through it.
Hello, bienvenidos. Tenemos
She plays a clapping game.
knees. Tap, tap, tap your knees, tap your knees together. Tap, tap, tap your knees together. Now find your elbows. Tap, tap, tap your elbows. Tap your.
So she changes the rhythm. She's a Dow Crow's Kodai and Orff teacher. But at one point she says, tap something else. And my colleague said that she should stop playing the piano and yell, stop tapping your brother. And then it would be more realistic. So we were imagining listening to this at home. So
Kathryn?
Yes.
I noticed that you have Lisa's tab open, and I noticed that someone asked if you could show an example of a science.
Yes, I am. I'm getting back to the page on all of the multi-grade teachers so I can bring back another one. So this is Kinder Science. So that was music, but there's one for each content area. And this has a read aloud, it has a little lesson, and then it has some brain pop videos for engineering. And I have her video. Sorry, there's so many tabs on here, but I do want to show you her science lesson.
I'm pointing as if you can see me pointing at that screen.
You can see which one it is from where you are. There she is.
There it is.
So she does a structure lesson. It's very long, so I was only going to play a little bit of it.
I found some mixing bowls. And one of the things you could do is you could build with materials that are in your house. I'm going to show you two different ways that we could build. So in using my materials from the disco room, I was thinking I want this to be the basis of my structure. Let me show you what I mean. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the small bowl and I'm going to put it, I think maybe on top. What do you think? Or maybe it could go to the side. Let's see what happens.
So they're very happy, very much like themselves with the children on the, sorry, there's so many tabs, in all the different lessons. And I think that it gave families a lot of materials to work with in order to structure and schedule the way that they had hoped. We have social emotional learning offered as well. And the SEL teacher put together a summary of what the children had learned during the semester on the most recent community club lessons, and then read alouds and activities for them to do that would keep it going.
I thought my favorite part of this was that Kathryn was very clear that teachers should work as a team and not have different kinds of lessons depending on your homeroom, so that all of a grade level had the exact same experience. So that allowed teachers to, you have the outliers that'll produce a lot of work versus the person that feels comfortable with one item. So Kathryn was like, make sure your team decides together what the baseline is going to be. And that allowed a lot of people to work together in this regard. So that was very wonderful for us.
There's a lot of questions about Spanish and all the different content areas. Happy to show you lots and lots of examples. Someone's asking about the Blackbaud page. We only are using Blackbaud because our families already have it and they have access to it, but email works as well. The links work in the exact same places, but Blackbaud gave us a home base that was already familiar to families for kindergarten and first and second grade to go in, and that cuts down on the number of emails coming into their inbox, which is, I think, is a lot to manage.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen again so you could see a list of the potential content learning management systems. So we, like she said, we were fortunate to have this, but an email with links is just as good if you're saving everything into your Google Drive, and it's very easy to create a Google site. And those are all free resources that you can use in your community. So,
somebody asked about pre-K and lesson length, and I think it's good to put those two questions together, that the lessons are not 45 minutes long. They are 2 to 7 minutes long. So this is a very, very short, many of the videos are 2 minutes. It's much more to capture for the children. These people are still here. These people are still connected to you. They're very joyful. I'd love to share some more just of these beautiful teachers greeting their children and singing songs to their children that they already know. I think it's good for a 2-year-old, for a 3-year-old, for a 4-year-old. The idea is that we are greeting children and we are giving families resources to engage their children in ongoing learning. So we're not asking children to learn off of the screen, we're just having them connect to the people they have strong relationships with. And then we're giving the families resources so that they can help their children to continue doing things that the children were doing before, or to give them new material. So that science lesson that we watch with the science teacher, she is showing how she's building a structure, but then she's also giving them a task to go off and build a structure with a family member. And she's giving them links to a couple of brain pop videos about structures because they were learning about structures. So that's pretty wonderful for them. So I was going to show just another, is it okay to show another engagement with the teachers? So this was the KB.
We miss you. Today we're going to be trying something brand new.
A little experiment. It's called distance learning.
Learning from your home.
You get to do reading, writing, math, and even movement in the comfort of your own home.
So cool.
It's like an advertisement.
We won't see you again until after spring break, but we hope you have a great one.
See you later, alligator. In a while, crocodile. Give a hug, ladybug. Blow a kiss, jellyfish. See you soon, big baboon. Out the door, dinosaur. Take care, polar bear. Wave goodbye, butterfly.
So I think when you think about pre-K, that's absolutely appropriate for pre-K and for 2-year-olds, and just helps them remember there are these teachers, they love you. These are songs that you know how to sing, and then families can continue to engage with them after. So there was, oh, file size. That's a good question for Gina. Do you have the ability to have the home adults load up or contribute to a shared gallery? Right now, this was a 3-day plan. So this was a Wednesday, Thursday plan the teachers needed to put together collectively. But absolutely, after break, there may be continued at-home learning. So that's going to be a bigger challenge. And we talk about one of the challenges will be assessment. So those are future problems that we are beginning to think about. But I think we had a really wonderful launch to online learning that affirmed for families that we're still here, that we're still connected to your children, and that we can still provide resources and tools for you to continue the learning. But we go on spring break starting tomorrow. And so teachers will not be doing this for 2 weeks. Families certainly have access to all of these, so we don't want to turn off the access, but the idea is to load up new material when we come back from break if we are not able to be back in the classroom. Gina, someone asked about QuickTime file size.
Since we're hosting it on our web portal, file size wasn't a consideration. However, you can definitely save QuickTime in different formats. So you can lessen the file size. You can also move things to iMovie, which will also export as a smaller file size. I find that QuickTime, let's see, depending on the way that you save the film, you can control file size a little bit better. You can export to 720p, and that will minimize the file size as best as you can. Considering these are 1 and 2 minute videos, I think the accepted practice is to expect 1 gig per 1 minute. So per minute, 1 gig per minute in a file size for a video file. So.
I'm reading some of the questions about differentiated instruction. So I wanted to address that because I think that happens for a lot of teachers. Our studio teachers are not able to differentiate. So the art teacher, the Spanish teacher, the music teacher, because they teach on multiple grade levels. So that's a large load for them. But our classroom teachers, we are asking to continue with the differentiation. We had excellent assessment information up until Monday. So our reading groups, our writing groups, and our math groups were already set in terms of where children were on their reading level, where they were on their math strategies, what their writing work looks like. So they put together across all 3 classes, the groups, so that they could produce the appropriate reading instruction. So giving children like a little reading group. So the teacher would read and give prompts and then offer the books for the families to read. We plan after the break to launch some subscription sites where we've already created the folders of where the readers' books what their books are based on their reading level. But for these 3 days, we scanned some books, which might not be advisable for long term, but we did create the decodable readers and the books for the families to access on the screen until we get back from break. We also sent out, the New York Public Library has an online e-reader resource with a New York Public Library card. So we sent that out as well as some other online resources. But we do have a literacy and a math subscription ready to go when we return from break that will allow us to differentiate the assignments. But like we were talking about, we haven't yet assessed remotely. So that'll be the next, because we don't want to keep children at the same place that they left in March. We want to be able to assess where they are and then move them forward. We do have children who receive learning support here at the school. Gina mentioned at the beginning. The platform that those teachers are using is different than the one that the class teachers are using. So again, it's no substitute for being on site, but they're having live Zoom sessions with students at home that are shorter in length, and they're using Sign Up Genius to get the families to sign up for the session. Downloading Zoom, that's what Gina was talking about, some of the tech support early on to make sure that families have access to Zoom, to make sure that the cameras are working, and to make sure that we are, my phone's ringing, so I just hung it up. And to make sure that the teachers who are using it, so the speech and language pathologist, the occupational therapist, the learning support teacher for literacy, the learning support teacher for math, and our psychologists are offering one-on-one sessions by Zoom. So they're going to continue to do that throughout the, whatever the length of time is that we're on remote. They said if they could have captured the faces of the children this week when they were having their one-on-one session through the computer with their counselor or with their speech and language pathologist or their occupational therapist, there was so much joy from these children who were seeing their teachers and they're like, can you hear me? Can you see me? And they said it was like having a parent-teacher conference and a family engagement in their living room. So there was the teacher on the dining room table or on the sofa talking to the child and talking about the strategies that they're practicing. And they were able to be part of that and really guide the parent. So it was they were really, really thrilled with how it went off. I think it was a lot of technical support initially to make sure that everyone could access it, but now they know how to do it, they know how to sign up, and they'll continue to do that after the break.
Can I ask 2 questions? One about schedule. How
Mhm.
long are students actually in quote school expected to be actually working on schoolwork during the day?
Yeah, we sent out guidelines to families for K-1-2. I'll put that up in our original, because we talked about it. How much time should children be doing it? So for kindergarten, we thought that they should have time specifically on literacy activities for 15, and the families could do more, but 15 minutes a day was required, really having a reading or word study. And we send out some of the resources, 15 minutes for math, 15 minutes for social emotional learning, and then no time boundary for music, movement, art, science, Spanish, technology, library, and projects, and spending time together reading books or reading to your child. So that was for kindergarten. First and second grade, we're advising 30 minutes for reading, 20 minutes for writing, 20 minutes for math, and then again, not time bound, projects, exploring your own interests, and the multi-grade teachers. So that came from the class teachers. That was their feeling on it. Some families are certainly giving their children much, much, much more work to do. And some families are probably giving their children no work to do. So right at this point, we don't have a way to assess who's accessing and using the resources, but we're getting a lot of positive feedback from families and a lot of evidence that families are very much doing this. We are not collecting work in K-1-2.
And also, the follow-up questions is about attendance. Is there any way you are keeping track of who's actually engaging with the material or online?
Yeah, the communications department is monitoring how Blackbaud is being accessed, but we're also using email for this. So there's no way to know if someone opened the email or not. The emails that we get for tech support or for I can't access this, or the teacher said they get an email that says the video has permission set to it. And the teacher's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to make it, just like Gina said, open for everyone to view. So they go in and they fix it, and then they get a thank you note back. So the back and forth has shown that we absolutely have people accessing the materials, but none of it is live. It's all asynchronous. So the families do it at the time that works for them.
The CST has reported that the majority of their clients have scheduled some time. They're scheduling 15-minute time slots. Yesterday I had a lot of support, and today I had to do no support. So everybody's up and running, and they really understand how to help parents troubleshoot any concerns or issues that they're facing, and it's been quite successful. Parents are emailing Kathryn, which is what she's not saying is parents are emailing her, telling her thank you for doing all of this in every single area. So she's getting a lot of positive feedback, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from CST as well.
And I'm telling the teachers they're going to be, I mean, because you also don't have any control over how these are shared, but they're all going to be YouTube stars soon. I had a couple questions about Spanish and about SEL, so I'm happy to bring those up. I will tell you it's an unfair comparison. I didn't preload Hernan's work because Hernan, our Spanish teacher in primary, already has a YouTube channel. He
Right.
creates all of his own content. Yeah. And so it's really easy for him to actually take what he does in the classroom and load it up and share it with families. And he's been doing that for 2 years. Right. So it's unfair to show you some of the Spanish things because other Spanish teachers aren't necessarily going to have access to that. But I think when you see what other teachers are doing in terms of a little greeting and then giving the children something to do, I think it is possible to share and keep children engaged. Let me bring the screen sharing. Sorry, not as fast at this. Here's an SEL, for example. So we're on the topics page for 1B, and this is grade 1 social emotional learning. I think this is one of them. There's Doug the Dragon. He's a big part of their curriculum. And this talks about in Community Club, he taught the children about the anger thermometer. So they put in a link to the book of when Sophie gets really, really angry. And then they share with the families the feelings that they have talked about for the cool pool. And then they give them a copy. It's hard to get the screen when you have Zoom. It's all over the place. There we go. Anger thermometer. So this is the resource that was, oh, it failed to reload. There we go. Let's see if it'll reload. No? All right, I got a link problem. We'll find out why it's not loading, but it's an anger thermometer that they used in class. And so it's just telling the parents about the SEL lessons they did recently so that they can remember those strategies. If we continue into the break, I'm certain Doug will make an appearance on a QuickTime video, and he'll teach the children something new, and they will send it out to the families on some books that they could read. We have Tumble books, so we're able to link straight to books that can be read aloud for families, and we can recommend read alouds they can do at home.
We also have a subscription to Learning Ally, as well as teachers have set up Epic accounts, and we purchased Reading A to Z, which is part of the Learning A to Z family. So if we have to go long-term, we have those things ready in our bucket list, and we'll see what happens.
So I'm going to bring up Hernan Spanish.
Yeah.
Very unfair.
Yeah, Anand has been doing this for years. He really enjoys creating these web videos.
So I didn't preload them because I didn't want to make it unfair.
Yeah.
So this is his
YouTube page.
His YouTube page. Can you hear it? There we go. And these are all of them, so he has quite a few.
It says it's a teaser to an episode.
Okay, so maybe Flora. I'll skip in. So Hernan does game shows. He does stories that have sequels, and he has a YouTube channel, and he's regularly doing family engagement in the cafeteria, showing the families some of the lessons that they've had in class and some of the vocabulary that they've learned. So he's just taking all of that and putting it right to families through the internet instead of in person. So I think that's an unfair comparison. That's not what we're asking the teachers to do. There's a bunch on here for Zoom waiting room and lessons. We're not using group lessons on Zoom, so maybe that's related to a different thread that's there, but none of our teachers are having Google Hangouts. They're not having group lessons where children come together at the same time. All of the instruction for the children is asynchronous unless it's a one-on-one pre-scheduled 15-minute OT session or speech and language session. So that's a little different.
I saw that someone asked about Google Hangouts versus Zoom. Personally, and historically here at the school, we've decided not to have Google Hangouts for the reasons that you can schedule Google Hangouts with anyone inside or outside of the community, and you can't really control its use. With Zoom, you send a link for a specified amount of time and you're controlling the meeting. So when the meeting ends, you're not providing like a video conferencing resource that can be used outside of that time frame and outside of your constraints that you're setting. So that's why we decided to go with Zoom. The good news is that if you use the Zoom account, the free Zoom account, you can schedule up to 40 minutes if you have 3 or more participants, and unlimited amount of time if you have less than 3 participants. So the free option is available, and the business option allows you to do more.
And just to build on that, Andrew, I believe, is going to share a few details about the deal that NYSAIS has arranged with Zoom. Just at the time of crisis, Zoom is expanding their access for schools, especially schools that have closed. So Andrew's got more specific information to share on that. The one thing I'll mention on a fairly humorous note is that we heard from a school that was using Google Meet, and the trouble they were having is the students kept kicking the teachers out of the meeting, and they didn't know how to control that. So I don't know if that would be a concern with your class, but certainly it's a little harder to deal with that issue on a technical level.
So that's our process for where we are now. That was for 3 days of on remote learning. It allowed us to pilot a bunch of things we had just talked about, but not actually done before. And they were able to just deliver what they had planned. But it was certainly a big effort, and it took a whole lot of collaboration and teamwork for the teachers, and then a lot of support from Gina in the nitty-gritty details. But I think at this point, the teachers could continue instruction from the rest of the year from home. They could collaborate and work together to build out differentiated curriculum. We do need to come together as a community in kindergarten, first and second grade to talk about assessment in order to understand what that could look like and how we could maintain it. And we certainly hope to be back in school with all of our students after the break or at some time before the school year ends. We also have a summer support program. So we're really eager to have those children come back in the summer, particularly the ones who are receiving learning support, to make sure we can get them caught up before the end of the school year. But we really don't know what's going to happen after the break.
Another technical question is, can you save that Zoom movie and use it anywhere or save it to a drive? The answer is yes. It creates an MP4 movie file that you can save anywhere. It's no longer necessary to have Zoom at that point.
And in fact, we will be sharing this recording with you so that you can share it among your colleagues when this is over. I did have a question, if I can remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. What do you wish you had had time to do that if you'd been able to do it, it would have made the process easier, more streamlined?
Good question. I think we're really glad we started a few weeks ago because I think having the time to think about it without it sitting on top of you was really, really important to get to the values component of it. It wasn't just here's a bunch of things, you take them and now you do them. It was, what do you think it would look like? What do you think would be important? And that discussion, I think, made a huge impact on the stress levels of the teachers, the engagement of the teachers, the work ethic of the teachers, because it came from them. It was their strategies, it was their ideas, it was what they thought was most important and most valuable. And then it became, then what can we do to help you to do that? What could we provide? And Gina said, would anybody like a session to learn how to use this? And people said yes. So even before we were closed, she was offering an after school time or a 1 o'clock time if you've never used Zoom before and you'd like to learn how. And it was time that was less intense because we were talking about it. So I would say in the future, schools should be talking about it, and it should be an ongoing conversation so that there's a sense of what do we value and what do we want to do. So then when it comes down to Sunday night, we're doing it tomorrow. It wasn't people trying to get on board. It was people who had already determined this was what we wanted to do and had already received the support and the resources. Certainly there was panic. And people who had not participated in the elective training suddenly had to participate and weren't sure how to do it and had never come, and I don't understand, and this is too much. But I would say today, one day after launch, the temperature level is very calm. The affirmation from the families is incredibly fulfilling. Teachers feel proud, they feel accomplished, they feel like a community, they feel like they're connected to what they sent out, and they're receiving incredibly positive feedback for doing it in such an authentic way. Mm-hmm. So I think that I don't know that I would have done something completely differently except be in school with the students and be having a regular week and celebrating our showcase on Friday that we're not celebrating. So I don't know.
For me, it was about collecting the information for the community needs. I wish I had done that weeks ago. I know I'd done it at the beginning of the year, but the follow through, I wish it was a little bit more intense. So that's the piece that I wish started earlier, is really understanding the community needs and using these tools on a regular basis so that people felt comfortable when it was go time.
So yeah. I guess for
Gina made them comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I'm right now I'm already thinking about if we're able to come back and if we're not able to come back. So the director of technology and I are having like continued conversations about appropriate tools that actually are linked to our curriculum. And that's a little bit challenging to make sure that we're not introducing any technology that really doesn't speak to what we believe in. You know, I'm getting a lot of suggestions about the next best thing, or we should be using this, or we should be using that. And so I want to be careful and mindful that whatever tools that I'm introducing to our community actually weds very well with our pedagogy and our belief systems, and it's not far away from who we are. So.
Yeah, and I would add teachers had, I remember going over, sitting with the kindergarten teachers on Tuesday afternoon. Okay, so I have all of the logins and online resources that you want to recommend for families for them to go to follow up. And I listed them out and I said, so that's 12. Do you think for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the families need 12 online resources? And they were like, no, they don't. I think they need these 3. So it's about not overwhelming families and giving them everything that you know would be great, and instead giving them piece by piece by piece. I also said spring break is coming. They're going to suck it dry if you put it all out there, and then the kids will all go, I'm bored. I did that already when you get back from break. So don't give them everything. Give them just what they need, and then give them more when they're ready for something else. So bank those and only release what you think is most important for right now, for what you've put together right now. So we did do that. And I think that that's important. Someone put in a question about differentiation. The only thing that every parent has access to are the things that are for every child. If you're receiving a different reading assignment or a different math assignment, it's going to the parent's email. So we are differentiating through email, and we are using the website only for things that are available and open to everyone. So we're not asking them. Older students are sometimes asked to choose which number string they want to do or to choose, but we didn't think our kindergarten, first and second grade families would necessarily be equipped to help their child make the right choice. So we're only giving them one choice. So we give them exactly what is appropriate for them, and we don't give them, the only things that we give them are the things that their child should be working with. We don't give them access to everything. And that's using Google Drive, because once you send the link, they only have access to that through their link. Sure, they could create a Google Doc, which parents do, and share everything with each other and use all of it. But I think they have other things they're thinking about and balancing their own work and their own at-home childcare. I don't think they really care about accessing other people's reading books and number strings at this stage. There was another one. Oh, supplies. Right now, we talked about a Go box. That was one of the things we talked about 2 weeks ago. What would you need and what would you want in families' homes? There was one other video I wanted to share related to that. We asked teachers for these 3 days in particular to think only about at-home materials. You saw Dr. McDonald, the science teacher, using bowls for her structure activity. It's don't ask them to use something that they don't have. And if there's something that they must have, tell us so we can get it ready for distribution. When we distribute the technology, we can also distribute materials. But as they played with it, they realized they could use a lot of at-home materials and pencil and paper for so many things. So I was going to show one that's a little math game that the teacher is telling the first grade families. Let's see if all of this will work. I think this is, yep, this is the little game. So this is a piece of notebook paper.
Hello, first graders. Today I'm going to show you a game that you are going to create for math. One thing you're going to need is a sheet of paper. It could be blank or lined. You're going to need a pencil and a scissor.
So she shows them how to build this.
You're going to have your +1 - 2 - 1 + 2. Let's see what card I pick up. -1. So I'm going to write the number sentence 16 - 1. And then I'm going to figure out that that equals 15. Now I'm going to put that in.
So that's a 5-minute video on how to make a math game that we have in cards at school, but you can make your own cards at home. So the parent can watch it with the child, they can do it together, or a child who is good at origami could also make it themselves by watching the video. And then they can use that game in future lessons for more math games. So a lot of things can be made at home, but the teacher has to model and demonstrate how to do it. But teachers did take what we call go boxes, where they put in the box things that they would like to have at home to create some of those lessons. But our building is open, our building is accessible. Adults who work at the school can come to the building, but we're not, the university has forbidden gatherings of larger than 25. So we are not able to have group meetings here. But then we just use Zoom to have the conversations that we need. And certainly teachers can come and access the resources that they need if they're able.
Someone asked, if you have a small school that doesn't have a technology specialist, how can you accomplish the same goal? The good news is that I don't believe that I own the skill set. There are some savvy faculty members here at the school. I work with 10 classrooms, 180 students. So I kind of work with a small school in essence. I'm the only person for a small school in essence, but I don't believe I own all the knowledge. So I actually am quite aware of everyone's different skill sets. And at any moment's notice, I'll ask people to go ahead and do a mini lesson or share during a faculty meeting or during a 10-minute innovation session. Teachers feel really great when their own colleagues who are having the same kind of experiences are able to share their technological skill sets with each other. I also suggest that schools start considering giving these savvy people a title that'll help them feel rewarded for helping their community in this regard. So those are some of the things that I think to myself, like pooling all the information, surveying your community to understand what everyone's technology skill sets are, identifying those people, asking them to do little mini 10 to 15 minute innovation sessions, and then perhaps giving people a title. I know a school that identified teachers and gave them, like for example, it was a lower school technology person, a middle school technology person, a upper school technology person that faculty felt comfortable to rely on when they didn't have actual staffing in their tech department, aside from the information technologist department. So those are some.
Sadly, it is almost 5 o'clock, and we want to respect your time, Gina and Kathryn, and thank you so much for this fabulous information. Andrew,